All right, let's dive right in. If you're anywhere near the world of modern applications, you've definitely heard the term service mesh thrown around. But let's be real, the landscape is always shifting. So how in the world do you pick the right one for 2025? Well, that's exactly what we're going to do today. We're going to cut through all the noise and give you a super clear guide. So let me just ask you this straight up. Are your microservices getting a little wild? A bit out of control? If you're nodding your head, trust me, you are not alone. That whole dream of having these nice, clean, independent services, yeah, it can turn into a total mess of communication chaos really, really fast. And that's the exact problem we're here to tackle. So here's what we've got on deck. First, we'll talk about the challenge of taming those microservices. Then, we'll get into what actually makes a service mesh great. After that, we'll put 2025's top contenders head-to-head. And finally, we'll figure out how you can find the absolute perfect fit for your team. You know, when you start out with just a handful of microservices, things seem pretty manageable. But then you scale up to dozens, maybe even hundreds, and a whole new kind of chaos just appears. Suddenly you're asking, how do these things even talk to each other securely? How do I keep an eye on their performance? That is the problem of scale. And this, right here, is why a service mesh goes from being a nice-to-have to something that is absolutely essential. Okay, so what is a service mesh really? The simplest way to think about it is like this. It's a dedicated layer of infrastructure that sits there and handles all the communication between your services. It's the thing that makes sure all that chatter is safe, fast, and super reliable. And the best part, your developers don't have to worry about it. It's basically the traffic cop for your microservices, directing everything and keeping order.
All right, so we've established we need this traffic cop. Great. But how do you hire the right one? Because let me tell you, not all service meshes are created equal, not even close. So we need a solid checklist, a set of criteria to judge these tools, and find the best one for the job.
And here's our checklist. This is what we're going to be looking at. First off, ease of use. How easy is this thing to actually work with? What about performance overhead? Is it going to slow everything down? Is there a good community behind it if you get stuck? We're also going to look at its CNCF status. That's the Cloud Native Computing Foundation. And getting their stamp of approval is a huge deal. It tells you a project is mature and stable. And of course, we'll cover the big ones: security, scalability, and whether you can get commercial support if you need it. Okay, our criteria are locked and loaded. So let's meet the main event, the top contenders for 2025. We're going to put 4 of the biggest open source players in the game head-to-head, and we're going to see exactly where they shine and, just as importantly, where they're different. First up is the original powerhouse, Istio. If you want a service mesh that can do literally everything, this is your guy. It is famous for its incredibly deep, granular control over every little bit of traffic and security. That's why it's such a massive favorite for big, complex enterprise environments. And you really can't argue with Istio's maturity. I mean, it's a graduated project at the CNCF. That's the highest level you can get. It basically means this thing is seriously battle-tested, and that's why you see it being used by absolute giants like Google, IBM, and Salesforce. If your organization needs that ultimate, fine-grained level of control, Istio's probably where you're going to look first.
All right, next up we have Linkerd. And in a lot of ways, Linkerd is kind of the philosophical opposite of Istio. Its whole reason for being is simplicity, performance, and as little overhead as possible. It's designed to be crazy lightweight and super easy to get started with. We're talking often 0 changes to your actual apps to get it running.
Now, just like Istio, Linkerd is also a top-tier graduated CNCF project, so you know it's stable and ready for the big leagues. But its entire DNA is just wired for simplicity and speed. It has a massive community behind it, and when you see companies like Microsoft and Expedia adopting it, you know its whole "it just works" philosophy is a huge, huge draw for a lot of teams out there. Okay, our third contender is Consul, and this one has a very, very clear superpower. It is the master of multi-cloud. It's backed by HashiCorp, and it was literally built from the ground up to handle services that are spread all over the place, across different clouds, or even in your own on-prem data centers. And just look at its community. We're talking over 28,000 GitHub stars. That tells you something. It's been picked up by companies like Roblox and Adobe, making it the absolute go-to for any organization that lives in that hybrid world. It's a CNCF incubating project, which means it's well-established and on a really solid path to graduation. And last but not least, let's look at the innovator of the bunch, Cilium. This one really feels like the next generation of networking, and it's all thanks to this amazing technology called eBPF. So what's eBPF?
Think of it as a way to safely run these tiny little programs right inside the Linux kernel itself. This makes networking and security unbelievably fast and efficient without all the old overhead. Cilium is truly built for the modern high-performance, cloud-native world.
Yeah, that eBPF advantage is exactly why Cilium is gaining so much steam. It's also a CNCF incubating project, has a massive community, and it's becoming the top choice for anyone who needs that bleeding-edge performance and security. I mean, look, when companies like Datadog and Google Cloud get on board with a technology, you know it is engineered for some serious modern scale.
Whew. Okay, so there you have it, our top 4. We've got Istio for ultimate control, Linkerd for radical simplicity, Consul for the multi-cloud world, and Cilium for that next-gen performance. So, how do you actually choose? Well, the answer, as it always is it depends. It completely depends on what you actually need.
Now, while these 4 open-source giants pretty much dominate the conversation, it is worth mentioning they aren't your only options out there. There are proprietary tools like GlueMesh and graymatter.io. These are built for teams that just want that enterprise-grade support and a fully managed, hands-off experience right from day one.
But look, whether you go open source or proprietary, let's be honest, implementing a service mesh is a big deal. It's a pretty complex journey, a huge architectural decision. So what if you need a guide? What if you need some help along the way?
Well, the good news is you absolutely do not have to go it alone. The support ecosystem for this stuff is really robust. Of course, you've got the creators of the tools themselves, like HashiCorp for Consul and Buoyant for Linkerd, and they offer great commercial support. But what if you're still undecided? Or what if you need help with a bunch of different technologies? Well, that's where expert consultancies really shine. Having a partner in your corner can be invaluable here. Take a firm like InfraCloud Technologies, for example. They specialize in this exact space. They can provide consulting and support across the whole landscape. It doesn't matter if you're wrangling Istio, trying to simplify with Linkerd, or pushing the envelope with Cilium. For pretty much any service mesh journey you're on, they are a fantastic go-to option for expert help.
And this, right here, is probably the most important takeaway of all. Choosing the right service mesh, it's not some technical beauty contest. It's not just about ticking off feature boxes. It's about your team's culture, your workflow, and your ambitions. The best tool is hands down the one your team will actually use and be successful with.
So let's circle all the way back to that first question. Are you struggling to keep your microservices in check? We've just looked at 4 incredible solutions: the Powerhouse, the Simplifier, the Multi-Cloud Pro, and the Innovator. Remember, the right choice here isn't just about fixing technical problems. It's about unlocking your team's potential. So the only question left for you to answer is, which one of these fits your team's ambition? Thanks so much for joining me.